Padre Pio stared directly into the eyes of a blind woman in San Giovanni Rotondo and said something the Vatican allegedly tried to hide for 50 years. He said that the eyes of the body are just windows, but the eyes of the soul, those are the doorways to eternity. And today, December 13th, St. Lucy's Day, the protector of sight, you're going to discover the secret ritual that Padre Pio revealed to open the spiritual eyes that you might not even know are closed. This isn't just any story, it's a revelation, connecting two saints separated by centuries, united by the same mystery of divine light. And what you're about to learn in the next few minutes could completely transform how you see your spiritual life. But before we go any further, I need to ask you an honest question. How often have you felt like you were wandering in spiritual darkness? How often have you asked God for a sign and felt like you couldn't see the answer, even when it was right in front of you? That's no coincidence. Padre Pio explained that millions of Catholics live with the eyes of their souls partially closed, as if there's a spiritual film, preventing true vision. And the most disturbing thing is, most don't even know it. You might be praying every day. You might be going to Mass. You might be doing everything right in the eyes of the world. But if the eyes of your soul are clouded, you're constantly missing divine messages. You're missing warnings. You're missing protections that God is trying to give you. And today, on St. Lucy's Day, there's a spiritual window that opens only once a year, an opportunity that Padre Pio knew deeply and that he shared with very few people during his life. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. It was the year 1953. A woman named Emily Carter arrived in San Giovanni Rotondo after traveling over 300 miles. She had gradually lost her sight over 3 years, and the doctors had already given up. They said her optic nerve was irreversibly damaged. Emily didn't come to ask for a miracle for her physical eyes. She had already accepted her condition. What brought her to Padre Pio was something different, something she couldn't explain to anyone. She told the Padre that even before she lost her physical sight, she felt like she couldn't see certain things. She felt like there was a spiritual reality around her that was completely beyond her reach, and now made physically blind. That feeling had intensified 1,000-fold. Padre Pio listened to her in silence for long minutes. When he finally spoke, his words were astonishing. He said that her physical blindness was a blessing in disguise. He said that God had closed the eyes of her body so that she would finally pay attention to the eyes of her soul. And then he made a statement that would change everything. Padre Pio said that Emily's soul eyes weren't just closed, they were locked. There were 3 spiritual locks that needed to be opened, and each one required a different key. And here begins the revelation that you need to hear with your full attention. The first lock, Padre Pio explained, is created by fear, not the common fear of everyday life, but the deep fear of seeing the truth about yourself. Many people, he said, prefer spiritual blindness because they're afraid of what they'll discover when they really see. They're afraid to see their own sins clearly. They're afraid to see how their choices have affected other people. They're afraid to see how far they've strayed from the path God has laid out. This fear creates an invisible barrier that blocks divine light. And the more a person avoids looking inward, the stronger this lock becomes. The second lock is created by constant distraction. Padre Pio was emphatic about this. He said that the modern world was creating a generation of spiritual blind people because people simply can't be silent anymore. They can't contemplate anymore. They can't simply be in the presence of God without doing anything. And remember, he said this in 1953. Imagine what he would say today. With phones ringing every minute, with constant notifications, with entertainment available 24 hours a day, distraction isn't just an inconvenience. It's a spiritual weapon that the enemy uses to keep the eyes of your soul permanently averted from the light. The third lock, and Padre Pio said this was the hardest to open, is created by a lack of forgiveness, not just the lack of forgiveness towards others, but especially the lack of forgiveness towards yourself. He explained that when we carry resentment, whether against another person or against ourselves, that resentment forms a kind of spiritual cataract. You might even see some things first, but everything appears distorted, blurred, darkened. And the worst thing is, many people don't even realize they have this cataract. They think they're seeing clearly, but they're actually seeing through a lens of bitterness that distorts everything. Emily listened to all this in silence. When Padre Pio finished, she was crying. Not from sadness, but from recognition. She finally understood why she could never truly feel the presence of God, even when she prayed for hours. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, the most important part was yet to come. Padre Pio then revealed to Emily something he rarely shared. He said that there was a specific day of the year when the 3 locks could be opened more easily, a day when divine grace flowed in a special way for those seeking spiritual vision. That day was December 13th, St. Lucy's Day, and the reason is profound. St. Lucy, whose name means light, wasn't just a martyr who lost her eyes. She was a woman who chose eternal light over temporal light. When they tore out her eyes, she didn't lose her vision. She gained a much deeper vision, a vision that pierced the veil between this world and the next. Padre Pio explained that St. Lucy received a special mission from God. She became the guardian of the eyes of the soul, not just the physical eyes, and as many think, but especially the spiritual eyes that allow you to see divine reality. And on December 13th, she intercedes in an especially powerful way for those who seek that vision. But it's not enough to simply ask. Padre Pio was very clear about that. There's a specific ritual that he taught Emily, a ritual that she should do at 1 p.m. on the 13th day of the 12th month. The numbers aren't a coincidence. 13 is St. Lucy's number. 1 p.m. is the time when the daylight is at its strongest in many regions. And December is the month when darkness seems to dominate. But it's also the month when eternal light prepares to be born at Christmas. The ritual begins with 3 white candles. Padre Pio explained that each candle represents one of the 3 spiritual locks that need to be opened. You light the first candle and ask God to remove the fear that prevents you from seeing the truth. You light the second candle and ask Him to ward off the distractions that divert your spiritual eyes. You light the third candle and ask for the grace of forgiveness, both for others and yourself. But the candles are only the beginning. After lighting the 3 candles, you must close your physical eyes completely. Padre Pio emphasized this. Closing your physical eyes is a symbolic act of trust. It's telling God that you don't need to see with the eyes of the body to trust Him. It's imitating St. Lucy, who lost her eyes, but gained eternal vision. With your eyes closed, you recite 13 Hail Marys, not quickly, not mechanically. Each Hail Mary should be pronounced slowly, with awareness of every word. And during each one, you imagine a light growing within you. Padre Pio described this light in a very specific way. He said it's not a light you see with your eyes, even the eyes of your imagination. It's a light that you feel, a light that warms, a light that expands your chest and makes you feel as if you could embrace the entire world. Emily Carter followed these instructions exactly as Padre Pio taught, and what happened next was documented by witnesses who were present. When she finished the 13th Hail Mary, something changed. She continued with her eyes closed, but suddenly began to weep intensely, not from pain or sadness, but from a profound realization. She said later that for the first time in her life, she was able to see, not with her physical eyes, which remained blind, but with something much deeper. She saw her own soul, as if she were looking into a mirror. She saw the marks left by her sins. She saw the scars of fear and resentment. But she also saw something more. She saw the light of God shining through all those wounds. She saw that even her greatest failings were not obstacles to divine love. She saw that God's mercy was much greater than any darkness she carried. And then, something extraordinary happened. Emily opened her physical eyes, and for 3 seconds, only 3 seconds, she was able to see, not perfectly, not with total clarity, but she saw the light of the candles. She saw the outline of Padre Pio before her. She saw the crucifix on the wall. After 3 seconds, the physical vision was gone again. She returned to being blind in the conventional sense, but she was not sad. In fact, she was radiant, because she understood something that Padre Pio tried to explain. The physical vision that she recovered for 3 seconds was just a confirmation, a sign that the eyes of her soul had been opened, the true vision, the eternal vision, that she kept forever. Emily lived another 27 years after that encounter. She never recovered her physical sight permanently, but everyone who knew her said the same thing. It was as if she could see through people, as if she perceived things that others didn't, as if she had access to a reality that remained invisible to most. And she attributed it all to the St. Lucy ritual that Padre Pio taught her. But Emily's story is not unique. Padre Pio taught this same ritual to many people over the years, and the accounts are consistent. There was the case of John, a businessman from Chicago, who came to San Giovanni Rotondo in 1961. John was not physically blind. On the contrary, he had perfect vision, but he felt a spiritual emptiness that no material achievement could fill. Padre Pio looked at him and said immediately that his physical eyes were open, but the eyes of his soul had been sealed since childhood. And when Padre Pio investigated further, he discovered why. John had witnessed something traumatic when he was 8 years old. Something he never told anyone, not even in confession. And that secret, that buried memory, had created a barrier that impeded his spiritual vision. Padre Pio did not ask him to reveal the secret. He only said that on St. Lucy's Day, at 1 p.m., he should do the ritual of the 3 candles and the 13 Hail Marys, but with a specific addition for his case. Before lighting the first candle, John should write his secret on a piece of paper, not to show anyone, just to take it out of the darkness of his mind and put it in the light of the paper. And after completing the ritual, he should burn that paper in the flame of the 3rd candle. John did exactly as instructed. And when the paper burned, he felt something he described as a physical liberation, as if invisible cords that held him had been cut. In the following months, his spiritual life was completely transformed. He, who could never meditate for more than 2 minutes, began to be able to remain in contemplative prayer for an hour or more. He, who had never truly felt the presence of God, began to experience moments of grace that left him in tears. The eyes of his soul had been opened now. You may be wondering why this information is not more widely known, why the Vatican has not widely publicized this ritual. And Padre Pio's answer to that question was revealing. He said that certain spiritual truths are like seeds. If you scatter them on any ground, most die. But if you plant them carefully in prepared hearts, they flourish and bear multiplied fruit. The St. Lucy ritual is not for the curious. It's not for people who seek spiritual experiences as entertainment. It's for those who genuinely desire to see, even knowing that seeing also means being seen, because when you open the eyes of the soul, you see God. But God also sees you with total clarity. There is no more place to hide, and that scares many people. Padre Pio warned that some people, when doing the ritual, may not have the experience they expect. Not because the ritual doesn't work, but because they are not yet ready for what they will see. And in those cases, Saint Lucy, in her mercy, keeps the eyes of the soul partially veiled, protecting the person from a vision that they do not yet have the maturity to bear. That is not a failure. It's a protection. If you do the ritual today, at 1 p.m., and you don't feel anything extraordinary, it doesn't mean that nothing happened. It means that grace is working in you in a way that you cannot yet perceive. Sometimes, the eyes of the soul open gradually, over days or weeks. Sometimes, they open at a specific moment, one you don't expect. The important thing is to perform the ritual with a sincere heart and to repeat it every December 13th, year after year, because each time you do, the locks weaken, the spiritual film thins, and the light penetrates deeper. But there's something more that Padre Pio revealed about this specific day. He said that on December 13th, souls in purgatory receive a special grace related to vision. Many of these souls, he explained, are in purgatory precisely because, in life, they refuse to see certain truths. They refuse to see the suffering they caused. They refuse to see the opportunities for love they wasted. They refuse to see the signs that God placed in their path. And part of their purification involves finally seeing all of this with clarity. A clarity that can be painful, but that is also liberating. On St. Lucy's Day, if you include the souls in purgatory in your intentions during the ritual, you can help them in this process of vision and purification. Padre Pio strongly encouraged this practice. He said that by helping souls to see, you are also opening your own spiritual eyes. There's a mysterious connection between our vision and the vision of the souls who have passed on when we pray for them. Something in us also illuminates. It's as if there's a circuit of light that connects the living and the dead, and each prayer makes this light circulate more intensely. And here, we arrive at a crucial part of this revelation. Padre Pio didn't just teach the ritual. He also warned about the signs that the eyes of the soul are beginning to open. The first sign is subtle. You start to notice coincidences more frequently. Things that previously seemed random start to seem connected. You think of someone, and that person calls. You have a question, and the answer appears unexpectedly. You need help, and someone shows up at the exact moment. This isn't coincidence. It's you starting to see the invisible threads that God is constantly weaving around you, threads that have always been there, but that your spiritual eyes couldn't perceive. The second sign is more intense. You start to feel the pain of others in a deeper way, not just intellectual empathy, but a kind of emotional resonance that can sometimes be overwhelming. You look into someone's eyes and feel what that person is carrying, even if they don't say anything. Padre Pio lived this constantly. It was one of the reasons why confessions with him were so transformative. He didn't just hear the sins, he felt the weight of them. He saw the wounds they caused in the penitent soul, and that's why he knew exactly what words of healing were necessary. The third sign is the most frightening for many. You start to perceive the presence of evil with more clarity, not necessarily visible demons, but an increased sensitivity to environments, people, and situations that carry a negative spiritual energy. Padre Pio warned that this sign can be disturbing at first. You might enter places that previously seemed normal and feel an inexplicable oppression. You might meet people who seem friendly and feel an internal warning that you can't explain. You might see news or entertainment that you previously consumed without a problem and feel a repulsion that didn't exist before. This isn't paranoia, it's discernment. It's your spiritual eyes finally seeing the reality that has always been there, but that you couldn't perceive. And the fourth sign, the most beautiful of all, is a growing experience of the presence of God. Not just in moments of prayer, but in ordinary moments and while doing dishes, while walking to work, while waiting in traffic. Suddenly, you realize that you're not alone. You realize that there's a loving presence that is with you in every instant, in every breath. And this perception brings a peace that is difficult to describe with words. Padre Pio said that this was the true purpose of the St. Lucy ritual. not to have spectacular visions, not to see angels or demons, but simply to awaken to the reality that God is always present, always attentive, always loving. Now, I need to tell you about a last revelation that Padre Pio made about St. Lucy, something that few people know. He said that St. Lucy doesn't just intercede for those who seek vision, she also protects against a specific form of spiritual attack that the enemy uses with increasing frequency in the modern world. That attack is illusion. The devil knows that he can't completely extinguish the light of the soul, so he uses a different strategy. He creates false lights. He creates illusions that seem like spiritual truths, but that, in reality, distance the person from God. Think about how many people today follow philosophies that promise enlightenment, but that actually plunge them into darkness. Think about how many false prophets gain followers by offering visions and revelations that don't come from God. Think about how many spiritual practices seem harmless or even beneficial, but that in reality open doors to influences that aren't divine. St. Lucy, having chosen the true light, even at the cost of her own eyes, received from God the gift of protecting against these illusions. When you invoke her on December 13th, you're not just asking to see more, you're asking to see correctly, to distinguish the true light from the false lights, and that is perhaps more important today than at any other time in history. Padre Pio predicted that in the end times, there would be an explosion of false spirituality. He said that millions would be deceived by lights that seemed divine, but that came from the enemy. And he said that St. Lucy would be one of the main intercessors for those who sought discernment in this confusion. You are living exactly in the time that he described. Spiritual confusion has never been so great. The options have never been so many. The voices have never been so numerous, all promising truth, all promising light. How to know who to trust, how to know which path to follow. St. Lucy can help you see. But I need to tell you something important before proceeding. You have just received information that can genuinely transform your spiritual life. You learned about the 3 locks that block the eyes of the soul. You learned about the specific ritual of December 13th. You learned about the signs that vision is opening. You learned about protection against spiritual illusions. This isn't information that you find easily. Padre Pio shared this with very few people, and those people, in turn, passed it on with great care, only to those who demonstrated sincerity in their search. The fact that you are hearing this now is no coincidence. Something brought you here. Something wants you to know this. At this exact moment in your life, and if these revelations have touched your heart, if you feel that this was exactly what you needed to hear, I ask you for one thing. This channel exists to bring these hidden truths to light, truths that Padre Pio revealed and that the world needs to know. Each video like this faces resistance you can't even imagine. Not just algorithmic resistance, but spiritual resistance. Because there are forces that do not want this information to spread. When you support this channel through Super Thanks, that golden heart down below, you're not just helping financially, you're becoming part of a mission. You're saying that these truths need to keep reaching the souls who are wandering in spiritual darkness. Padre Pio said that those who help spread the light receive a portion of that light for themselves. It's a spiritual law. You cannot give without receiving. You cannot illuminate the path of others without your own path becoming clearer. If you've been touched by what you've heard so far, consider clicking that golden heart. Any amount is significant. What matters is the intention. It's you saying that the light cannot be extinguished, that Padre Pio's revelations need to continue reaching those who need them. Now, I'm going to tell you what happens during the ritual, and how you should prepare to do it today. At 1 p.m. The preparation begins before the ritual itself. Padre Pio recommended that the person spend at least 1 hour in silence before beginning, not necessarily in formal prayer, but in inner silence, turning off the distractions, calming the mind, creating an internal space of receptivity. If you can't manage an hour, do at least 30 minutes. If you can't manage 30 minutes, do at least 15. The important thing is to create a transition between the noise of the world and the quiet needed for the ritual. During this time of silence, Padre Pio suggested a specific reflection. Think about the 3 spiritual locks. Think about the fear you carry of seeing certain truths about yourself, not to judge yourself, but to recognize. Think about the distractions that constantly divert your attention from what really matters, not to blame yourself, but to perceive. Think about the people or situations that you still haven't completely forgiven, including yourself, not to relive the pain, but to identify. This reflection is not to resolve everything before the ritual. It's just to bring awareness. It's for you to know exactly what you are asking for when you light each candle. When it gets to 1 p.m., or as close as possible to it, go to a place where you can have privacy. It doesn't need to be a special place. It could be your bedroom. It could be a corner of the living room. It could even be a bathroom. If that's the only place where you can be alone, place the 3 white candles before you. If you don't have 3 candles, you can use just 1 candle, lighting it 3 different times and to represent each lock. The symbol is more important than the material object. Before lighting the first candle, make the sign of the cross and invoke Saint Lucy. You can use your own words, or you can say something like this: Saint Lucy, protector of physical and spiritual vision, intercede for me on this day that is especially yours. Ask God to open the eyes of my soul, so that I may see the eternal light. Then light the first candle and say, this light represents my intention to overcome the fear of seeing the truth. Lord, give me courage to look at myself with honesty, knowing that your love is greater than any fault I may discover. Pause for a few seconds in silence. Light the second candle and say, this light represents my intention to overcome the distractions that lead me away from you. Lord, help me to keep the eyes of my soul fixed on what really matters. Even when the whole world tries to divert my attention, pause again in silence. Light the third candle and say, this light represents my intention to forgive completely others and myself. Lord, dissolve all bitterness that obscures my spiritual vision. Help me to see others and myself with the eyes of your mercy. Now close your physical eyes. Keep them closed for the rest of the ritual. Begin to recite the 13 Hail Marys, but don't recite them mechanically. Between each Hail Mary, take a short pause. During that pause, imagine the light of the candles entering you, not through your physical eyes, but through some point in the center of your chest. Feel that light warming, expanding, illuminating. Don't worry if you don't feel anything dramatic. Each person's experience is different. Some people feel warmth. Others feel lightness. Others don't feel anything special during the ritual. But notice changes in the days that follow. The important thing is sincere intention. It's the genuine desire to see. It's the willingness to accept whatever God wants to show you. When you finish the 13th Hail Mary, remain in silence with your eyes closed for a few more minutes. This is the most important moment of the ritual. It's the moment when you simply become available, not asking for anything specific, not expecting anything specific, just being there, with your eyes closed, before the light of God. Padre Pio said that many people ruin this moment because they want to control too much. They want to force an experience. They want to be sure that something has happened. But spiritual vision doesn't work like that. It comes when you let go, when you stop trying, when you simply are. After a few minutes in this receptive silence, slowly open your physical eyes. Look at the 3 candles. Contemplate the light, without thinking about anything. Let the light enter through your physical eyes now too, and then, when you feel it's the right moment, extinguish the candles one by one. As you extinguish each one, give thanks. not for anything specific that you've received. Give thanks for the opportunity to ask. Give thanks for Saint Lucy. Give thanks for Padre Pio, who transmitted this knowledge. Give thanks to God, who is the source of all light. The ritual is complete, but your work is not finished. In the days that follow, pay attention. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the coincidences. Pay attention to the intuitions that arise. Pay attention to the people who cross your path and to what they say. The eyes of the soul don't necessarily open during the ritual. Sometimes they open hours later, days later, weeks later. The ritual plants the seed. The blossoming happens in God's time, and if you do this ritual today and don't feel that anything has changed, don't be discouraged. Padre Pio was clear about this. Some people need years of practice before they notice the change, but the change is happening, even when you don't perceive it. Each time you perform the St. Lucy ritual, those spiritual locks weaken just a little bit more. The spiritual film over the eyes of your soul thins ever so slightly. The light penetrates a little more deeply. Trust the process. Trust in God. Trust in St. Lucy. Trust in Padre Pio, who intercedes for all who seek the true light. And if you know someone who is spiritually blind, someone who just can't seem to see what's so obvious to you, don't judge them. Remember, you were once in that condition too. Maybe you still are, to some extent. Instead of judging, pray for them. Include them in your intentions during the ritual. St. Lucy can intercede, even for those who don't even know they need help. And now, I need to ask you something. Directly. Do you feel like your spiritual eyes are open or closed? Can you see the presence of God in your everyday life? Or does it seem distant, abstract, theoretical? Do you easily discern between the true light and the illusions that the world offers? I want you to reflect honestly on that. And if your answer is that you feel your spiritual eyes are closed or partially closed, know that today is the perfect day for that to start to change. December 13th, St. Lucy's Day, a day when the grace of spiritual vision flows in an especially abundant way. Don't let this day pass like any other. Do the ritual, even if you have doubts, even if you're not sure if it will work. Faith isn't about being certain. Faith is about acting, even in uncertainty. And to help you remember everything you've learned today, leave a comment saying where you're watching from, and if you intend to do the ritual at 1 p.m., write "eyes open" in the comments. If you are committed to doing the St. Lucy ritual today, when you write that publicly, you're making a declaration, not just to me or to other people, but to yourself and to the spiritual world. You are saying that you wish to see, that you are willing to face what you need to face, that you no longer want to live in spiritual blindness. And you know what happens. When many people make that declaration together, it creates a current of light, a community of seekers, a group of souls united by the same desire for vision. You are not alone in this quest. Thousands of people around the world are listening to this now. Thousands will be doing the ritual at 1 p.m., right along with you. You are a spiritual family, connected by the same desire to see the light. St. Lucy looks upon you with love. Padre Pio intercedes from heaven, and God, the source of all light, is ready to reveal what you need to see. May the eyes of your soul open today. May the eternal light illuminate your path, and may you never again wander in spiritual darkness. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.